Dan i dobrodošli na predavanje o kaligrafiji njegove ekscelencije ambasadora Japana, gospodina Đunićija Marujame. On će vas danas malo upoznati sa početcima kaligrafije, malo će porediti stočnjačku i zapadnjačku kaligrafiju, a vi ako budete imali neko pitanje tokom njegovog predavanja, slobodno podignite ruku i pitajte. Ambasador će govoriti na engleskom jeziku, vaše pitanje može biti i na japanskom i na engleskom, može biti i na srpskom, može prevesti, ako se ne snalazi da poštovje ovako javno. Pitanje šta tu da slobodno javno interaktivno i javno zanimljivo i sigurni smo da će reći.
Still 2 minutes before that 3 o'clock, but we can go ahead to start because we are Japanese. Japanese is very famous for to be over punctual, so that whenever that Japanese say 10 o'clock, it means 2 or 3 minutes before the 10 o'clock. In Serbia, it's 2 or 3 minutes after 10 o'clock. Big difference, okay? So, hello everybody, I'm a Japanese ambassador here, but at the same time I am an ambassador, but my prior business life is financial regulator and also the business people, and also at the same time that my family is it's more like an artistic background. I'm from my father and my professional calligrapher. That's why that I inherited those kinds of information and the knowledge and idea. So that's I'm very happy to provide you that part of that my knowledge and information here. This lecture is not a formal lecture, so it's a kind of chatting. So from now, starting it's open to the question. So at any time you like, raise your hand, stop me, and ask your question. Okay? Because there is a variety of the degree of the range of the audience who knows Japan very well, and who knows Japan to some extent, and who is coming later, like this person, and also who knows nothing about Japan, right? Japan is a very, very small island country located in the Far East. And anybody can locate Japan where it is located. It's in the East Asia, there's a huge country. First of all, we have Russia, right? Huge country compared to Soviet. And there's another huge country, China. And that's not attached, but close to China, there is a very small, teeny-weeny, sorry, British accent, teeny-weeny small island called Japan, right? But that small country has its own tradition, like Serbia. And also that developed its own artistic style, like music, like painting, and like calligraphy. And I will start my lecture with the everybody that if you're not interested in my lecture, please leave, but quietly, okay? Please, I don't mind that people living in the middle, so that if you don't feel that it's interesting, but please leave it, please move it quietly, otherwise other people might be a bit sort of annoyed, okay? The thing is that Japan has a lot of tradition, and that tradition has been already developed in the 8th century, 9th century. Over there, that kind of style has already been developed. And one thing that perhaps that I have to start with my lecture, emphasizing that already in 8th century or 9th century, I was telling that this young lady, and Japan is a very unique country that even in those days, the women had a lot of power, and women had a lot of things that they recorded, and they left a lot of things, and they developed, they contributed a lot for the artistic development in that period in Japan. And then after that, it's history, so that it's not my fault. Then starting from 14th, 16th, 17th century, there is a sort of like European society. The man or female, the male became power, and it started powerful, and a lot of things happened. But before then, the Japanese society, the women, the female, made lots of responsible role and a lot of influential thing. Perhaps some of you might have heard that the Genji tale. Have you heard anything? Please raise your hand if you have any, sort of name of the Japanese novel. In a 10th century novel, Genji tale. Yes, thank you. And that Genji tale was written by Lady Murasaki, the woman, right? And the important thing is that those kind of the novels, very, very long novel, 54 chapters, those novels were left. And also that the author of the novel was recognized, that was known. So that's an important point. Because in Japan, in Europe, in any society, in all the documents and books, and usually the authors are not known. Because there's no way. Number one, that they didn't intend to leave that as the name for the book or for the document. Number two, there's a lot of documents that just perished or burned, destroyed, or whatever. So the name of the author is not known. That's the usual style. But for the Genji tale, and the other one is Piro book. It's my pronunciation, the Piro book. There's another Lady Seisho Nako. That's the two most important novels. And also there's a couple of diaries in the 10th century, 9th century, 10th century, 11th century was left, written by women. So it's women is already very talented, and they have a lot of activities here. That's the point of the Japanese history. Okay. This one. This is that calligraphy. You think that calligraphy is. And I'm starting that some elements that are very important contained in the Western calligraphy and the difference between Western and Eastern calligraphy. Okay. By the way, all the arts, it's my opinion, all the arts originate from the daily life, whether it's in Europe or in Japan, Asia. For example, the painting is of course needless to say that people started painting in very, very old days. Music as well, sculpture, same thing, and calligraphy as well. Calligraphy is of course the calligraphy is the measure of the communication. And it's very natural that when you write down something and communicate those the written things to the other person, if your writings, what you write down, looks beautiful or looks nice, then you feel very proud, or you feel very confident, very happy, whatever. So that's very, very natural feeling. So that's calligraphy's original intention. And the same as painting and music and things. So the one big difference between Europe and Japan is those writings in very old days. Don't think about right now, but just assume that you are living in the 5th century and 6th century, 7th century. They don't have a pen, they don't have an ink, they don't have a brush. So they engraved it on the stone or on the crate. That's the European calligraphy that's starting. In Asia, China is a big country, as I said. China, they had already developed or invented brush. Brush combined with paper. So it's a big difference. That, for example, just think about the Serbian Orthodox Church or Serbian Orthodox monastery. Lots of documents. Back in the 5th century, not in the 17th century, 18th century. I'm talking about the 5th century, 6th century. It's Rashka, the Stary Rashka area. The documents are engraved into there. plate or stones. But already that in Japan, 7th century, 8th century, that the paper and brush were invented and were written. And of course, that in China, the same thing. But unfortunately, in China, that the Chinese and the Japanese are slightly different from each other. In China, every time the dynasty changes, the new dynasty completely demolished and destroyed the documents and the houses and everything of the previous dynasty. So unfortunately, that China very little paperwork, whatever the document and record or calligraphy, very little things were left. And Chinese calligraphy is, as the left-hand side, right-hand side is the paper written, calligraphy written in the paper. Left-hand side, the black background, that white. Why this kind of the shape? That's a bit strange color combination. Because this is engraved on the stone, on the stone wall, and people just copied it. When you copied it, you just put the paper on it, and you just start wrapping on it, so that the white portion is left as it is, and the background is written on the back. So this is so that we can recognize that the left-hand side one is on the stone wall, whilst the right-hand side is written on the paper. That's and in China, mainly the calligraphy is left in left-hand side shape, while in Japan, most of the calligraphy were left as a paper, calligraphy written on a paper. Not only this white paper, but also the designed paper. This is the important thing. This is a big difference between Chinese and Japanese calligraphy. Japanese calligraphy is using lots of design paper. Design paper, I'll show you later on. And design with a color, like a blue color, a very nice blue color, like a yellow color, orange color, and importantly, it's decorated with gold. Japanese people like gold very much. So does Soviets, of course. You don't like gold? You do, right? Yeah. So that the Japanese, the papers, Japanese had already developed a technique to decorate the paper with the gold. Gold leaves and gold sprinkles and things. So I'll show you later on. That's one of the important characteristics of the Japanese calligraphy. But okay, let's start. The Western calligraphy is the important thing is the very important thing is that each letter has to be written in a very nice, right? There's some rule, right? When you write down from the up to the bottom, the line should be a bit broad, and from the bottom to the up, the line shouldn't be that too broad, like that one. So look at A. It's coming up, very very thin, and the lean line, and then that coming down is a bit broad, right? So this is the rule. Of course, this is a specific type of the calligraphy. There are the various, many types of the calligraphy, but this is most typical type of the calligraphy, A, B, C. And this is the rule, strictly the rule. So each letter, A, B, C, should follow the rule, so that it looks very nicely and neatly, and also easy to read. That's the important thing. And this is the real one, handwritten. This is the letter or postcard letter. Even we can read it right now. It's there are other, I think. Sorry, I haven't seen you for over age or whatever. So but so even I can read it. We can read it right now. The important point is that it's a line. Look at the line. In a very straight line, horizontal straight line. Perhaps this lady that must have written down beforehand that she puts at the line and puts at the calligraphy. and then they raise it, right? That's most people are doing. But anyway, so that kind of a straight, very neat image is very important for the readability. So that's the second point. Number one, as I said, each letter should be nicely written. Number two, the line, straight line structure is also very important. And then that all letters should be put in order. And it has to be readable. You can read it. You have to read. You should be able to read it. That's the last point. Then the Japanese one is different. This is Chinese, and this is Japanese. It's means nothing. It drives you crazy. Don't worry about it. Of course, that each letter, for example, each letter, like A, B, C, should be written very nicely, and line should be straight. But the line is vertical instead of horizontal. So it drives you crazy, but don't worry, that this is just a difference in the culture. But this is it is a kind of similarity between the Western calligraphy. Each letter has to be written very nicely under the straight line. But this one, look, this one is something that very, very, very messy. Messy, but don't you feel something like an artistic expression that over there, right? And believe me, it was written in 10th century in Japan already. And this is reserved. This is in Tokyo National Museum right now. You can see it. And the paper is not purely white, but it is slightly that the purple, blue, and that kind of thing. So it's the line is straight, but don't have to be straight. It's a bit skewed. It's okay. And also that the entire balance is very important. Not the straight line type of balance. So that's the other important things. So whenever that you say that the calligraphy, that it's two different animals, Western calligraphy and Eastern calligraphy. And Eastern calligraphy, that there is some sort of two categories, that the Japanese and Chinese. And this depends, of course, that it's totally depending on the letters that we are using. Chinese characters and Japanese letters. Chinese characters is something like one chunk. One character means something. Like one character, one word, like a desk, wall, or roof, or white. And the Chinese people are expressing those kind of concepts with one word, one Chinese characters. Whereas Japanese letters, like R, E, U, is exactly like A, B, C. So A or B doesn't mean anything by itself, but only the combination of desk, D-E-S-K, means what? Desk, right? Chair, C-H-A-I-R, chair, means only those combination of the 5 letters means something. So it's the same as Japanese letters. But Chinese characters is totally different. One character, one meaning. It's not the phonetic. It's a chunk of the meaning that every character has it carries its meaning. So it's a big difference between Chinese character and Japanese letters and European alphabet or Cyrillic letters, whatever letters. So then now getting into some difference between the Chinese and Japanese calligraphy. So far, any question or any comments or any observations, please? with this much audience, it's a bit strange that no question, no comments, no criticism, no yelling, whatever. The Serbian people are very quiet. Serbian people are, I thought that the Serbian people are not too shy, but you guys are very shy. Sorry, I'm a bit American, but you hate that proper English. I studied in American university, and I worked for in the American bank called Citibank. So maybe I'm too much American. So. Any question, guys? Huh? No question? All right? Okay. And then the thing is that the paper is different. This is the sort of another big point of the Chinese calligraphy and Japanese calligraphy. Japanese calligraphy is using, as I said, the design paper. Design paper means that the this is a bit easy to understand. This is a kind of one pattern. And pattern printing is that you have some sort of like book and puts the pattern on the paper. It's so that you can produce 10 or 20 the same pattern paper. But this one is it's handwritten under drawing. This is also that calligraphy paper. And the important thing is that the student is a bit too strong, but those underwriting that shouldn't kill the calligraphy on it. Sometimes that people say that it's a bit too weak and too light and whatever. It's because of that this is a calligraphy paper. Calligraphy paper shouldn't kill the calligraphy on it, written on it. So that's so this is as I said, gold and silver, which you like and this is the design that the Japanese people have developed in the 10th century. This is a kind of collage or paper patchwork. So it's a kind of tear off the paper, different style, and gathering those papers together, putting together. So this is the very, very unique type of the paper producing technique developed in the 10th century or 11th century Japan. They have already developed that kind of technique. So the thing is that it's some interesting points. That of course that there is that the Chinese the Japanese calligraphy. It's Chinese character and Japanese letter is different. Japanese letter is a very, very, very simplified form, so that it's a running style. It's very easy to formulate. So these are the running style of the Japanese. And the Chinese characters are like this. This is what do you think of the Oriental calligraphy or Asian calligraphy? It is Chinese. So it's brush is different and paper is different and everything is different from Japanese, but it's still calligraphy. And see that the left-hand side is the Chinese and the right-hand side is the Japanese. So the brush is much more small and thin in Japan, whilst Chinese brush is more bold and strong stroke is important. Then what's the main difference in the concept of the Western calligraphy and the Asian Oriental calligraphy? It's in East. We think that each stroke or line is very important. Of course, that in Western calligraphy, line is important, but I'll show you later on that each line you can write down the different. Why? Because in Western calligraphy you are using the pen, right? Metal pen. In Asia we are using the brush. And brush, you can express the different touch, different boldness, or different, expression. So, thousands of the variations of the expression is possible with a brush. Of course, a pen is more like a formality. It's kind of uniformity is very important. Whenever that you write down the A, It should be that identical shape, identical touch, identical whatever. Whenever you write B, it should be written in identical way. But in Japanese and Chinese calligraphy, whenever you write down that the same letter or character, it should be different. It shouldn't be that the same. Like in English expression, sometimes the words, you have to change the word, the different word, the same thing. That you have to express that the same character or same letter in a different way. So that's why that we are using a brush. So that with a brush you can use that, you can express that there's some different touch, different things. So that's the one of the characteristics. So the Asian or Eastern calligraphy, that's that one thing. So because of the brush. And the second thing is that the kind of the entire balance is very important. It's not line by line, the neatness or simplicity, but the entire balance. So even if it is just one word, say that whatever power, the crowd, or whatever, the friendship, whatever, from one word to the poems and sing and everything. It doesn't have to be written in the line, but it's also written in a chunk, that way. And then, as long as it is the balance in the entire way, that should be right. That's an art. But Western calligraphy, it's more like it's line by line, and it should be readable. It should be simple. In Japanese and Chinese calligraphy, sometimes the readability is killed. Means that the artistic expression is pursued at the sacrifice of readability. It's a bit crazy thing. Japanese people are crazy anyway. So sometimes that ordinary people can't read it, or even that me as a professional calligrapher, we can't read the calligraphic art or calligraphic exhibition in the museum. But that's a result of that pursuing that artistic expression, I think it's a kind of excuse, but anyway, artistic expression that should be pursued to the extent maximum, so that it killed the readability, so that we can't read it. But I think I have some serious doubt on it, because calligraphy started with that concept of the measure of the communication. So if you can't communicate with other people with calligraphy, that doesn't mean that the calligraphy, that is something different, something like a painting, or something like a design of art, or abstract art, or something. But anyway, so some of the calligraphies are at the sacrifice of killing the readability. So that's a fact, unfortunately, in China and in Japan as well. And even if you know that the rule of the running style, and like a person like me, I know that all the kind of rules and also experience, but still that I can't read it. Some of my colleagues that in the embassy, she visited that a few days ago at some museum, and she took a picture of that, I think 16th century, 17th century Japanese calligraphy, that one of the collectors in Beograd. And she showed it to me that partially I could read it, but the remaining part I couldn't read it. That's a reality. So anyway, so the second point is sometimes at the sacrifice of the readability. And the third point is a difference in the paper. Right? The paper difference is the white paper. Difference in the paper means that the Western calligraphy, of course, sometimes that you use, basically you are using the white on paper. But sometimes I know that you are using some design paper. But it's most of them are the pattern design, right? That it's a very mechanical design. And European calligraphy never, ever use this paper or this paper. This paper is typical for the Japanese calligraphy. And paper production or paper producing technique itself had formulated as art, or considered to be an art in Japan. And lots of techniques have been developed in 9th century, 10th century Japan. And the strange thing is that it's, again, another crazy point in Japanese. Some of the technique we can't reproduce. So it's already lost. Paper is left. So the fact is there, the product result is there, but we can't reproduce that paper nowadays. Only an old people knew that. But currently, some of my friends who is showing the paper producing calligraphy paper production, he tried and tried and tried, but he couldn't reproduce it, and he gave up. That's a reality. So, in a sense, that the 10th century, 11th century Japanese is more clever and more skillful. They are better than us, at least. So those are the Japanese people, the current Japanese people, 21st century, 20th century, 21st century Japanese people are still not too bad for, the IT, or manga, or cosmetic play, whatever. We are still leading country, but 10th century, 11th century Japanese people are much better, much wiser. That's what people think. Okay. So, as a result, these are the Japanese So this one, the purple is Chinese and the rest is Japanese. So you see that some difference between the Japanese and the Chinese. So then those are the one. I'm not giving you. Yeah, that's right. And the other one is the paper. Don't worry, that's the and some of the Japanese paper, calligraphy. Can you think of something? Serbian Orthodox churches, ritual. So some of the desire for seeing the Lord, as I promised you that so does everything. So these are so if you're much more seriously interested in that, let us know that in my ambassador residence I have lots of those papers. Huge fan shape and everything, so let us know. You can have a tour. Actually, I'm going to receive another tour tomorrow. The Serbian young people coming to my residence and eating Japanese lunch and those are. Okay. Anyway, so the problem of this kind of the gold paper is very nice, right? It looks very nice and very like this one is very nice. Guess what the problem is? No, the thinness is that it's the other people also are thin as this one.
Price.
Sorry?
Price.
Yes, price is the one problem, but more artistic problem is it's the gold splashes. So when you try to write something, the marking is not really on, but it's splashes. So we can't express some of the artistic sentences in a phrase. So the thing is that using the paper, tissue paper, and the rubber, very strong. And only after that, we can write down. But also that the gold is that it's very thin, something like grain. Also that the people's oil, like you touched it, I touched it, everybody is touching it, so that those oils are accumulated on the surface of this gold. Whilst that the usual paper, it's soaked. But the gold doesn't soak, so it splashes. So using this kind of gold paper is very good. So this is one. Okay. I think that is running out of the first 30 minutes, and the remaining 30 minutes is a actual. This is the lecture part. If you are interested in more on that, paper using also I'm sure that they will see that there will be over just lecture part. This is only the introduction. But the remaining part is just very quick demonstration of using that very fun. So thank you very much. And those of you that who are interested in trying to write down something with a brush, authentic brush, please take care. And then come on to the desk. So I will show you something. Thank you very much. No, starting from that horizontal. That's right. No, never mind. Yes. Yes, that's okay. Good. That's right. Very good. Okay. Signing your name. Signing. Okay. Okay, very good, yeah. But that's very good, that's very good. Yeah.
Ajmo jednu
Well,
mušku.
I'll do that. Okay.
Ajmo jednu mušku, nismo imali.
Okay. If I were you, the 10. And then, the Marina-san, the sign should be here. Right? Right? It's small calligraphy, right? Yeah, Marina.
Samo malo da se odmaknemo,
Yeah.
samo malo.
Yeah. Okay.
Jel ima još neki dečko ili ima da peva? Ajde.
I like to know how to write a book. Book.
Book.
Yeah.
Book. Book is even Nihon's home, the same. Yes, very good. Very good. Oh, you're very good. Okay. Yes. Okay. Good. Good. Yeah.
Did I write Haru?
Haru. Spring.
Yes.
Oh, it's difficult. Well, it's me. It's okay. But for you, that it should be.
I think I will manage.
You would?
Can I try
You
with
have
Yes.
for.
Yes.
Okay. I'll write down with this.
Okay.
Haru.
Haru.
This is difficult, right?
They should dip in
Yeah. As I said, that's fine. But entire balance is too small, right? That's what I'm saying. That you should have wrote down that slightly more larger in the center, right? So
It's just easier, smaller for beginners.
But as a calligraphy, looking at the art of the calligraphy, this is more like a balance,
Yeah,
right? Yeah. Okay.
To je to. Imamo još jedan.
Yeah, okay.
Maybe one more.
Anybody is fine.